The massive vessel hung silently in the darkness of space, its sleek hull gleaming under the distant light of Earth's sun. Inside the observation deck, the air hummed with the software of advanced technology, screens and holographic displays casting an ethereal blue glow across the room. Admiral Ta Sung stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face reflecting years of space exploration. His dark eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic image of Earth floating before him. The planet looked so peaceful, so ordinary, a blue and white marble suspended against the black canvas of space. Fascinating, he murmured, more to himself than to his crew. Another world that hasn't reached beyond its own backyard. He reached out, his fingers passing through the hologram as he zoomed in on Earth's northern hemisphere. Lieutenant Jai-yun approached, her boots making soft clicks against the polished floor. She was young for her rank, but her intelligence and dedication had earned her this position aboard the Coalition's premier observation vessel. "Sir, I've completed the initial scans," she reported, her voice crisp and professional. "The results are, well, exactly what we expected." She pulled up a series of data streams beside the Earth hologram. "Their technology is primitive by our standards. They've managed to reach their moon, yes, but that's about it. No quantum drives, no dimensional technology, not even basic antimatter containment." She shook her head, a slight smile playing at her lips. "They're still burning fossil fuels for energy, can you believe it?" The bridge crew chuckled softly at this, but Admiral Ta Sung remained silent. Something in the energy readings caught his attention. Tiny fluctuations that seemed off somehow. He zoomed in further, focusing on several major cities. "Lieutenant, what do you make of these energy spikes?" he asked, pointing to several anomalous readings. Jai-yun frowned, adjusting her silver-trimmed uniform as she leaned in to study the data. "Most likely interference from their primitive power grid, sir. Their energy distribution systems are incredibly inefficient." She pulled up comparison charts from other developing worlds. "See, the pattern matches other civilizations at this stage of development." The Admiral wasn't so sure. In his 40 years of space exploration, he'd seen countless emerging civilizations, but something about Earth felt different. The energy readings were just a little too regular, the patterns a little too precise. Still, he'd learned to trust the data over his instincts. "Very well," he said finally. "Prepare the standard first contact protocols. The Coalition Council will want a full report on their technological capabilities and social structures." As the crew busied themselves with their tasks, Tae-sung continued to stare at the holographic Earth. From their vantage point at the edge of the solar system, they could see the countless satellites orbiting the planet, the crude space stations, the debris of humanity's first fumbling steps into space. "Sir," Jai-yun called out, "I'm detecting something interesting in their communications." She brought up a new display showing Earth's media broadcasts. They seem to have quite an imagination when it comes to space travel. Their entertainment shows feature all sorts of advanced technology, most of it completely impossible, of course. The Admiral smiled slightly. Many young species dream of the stars before they can reach them. It's a good sign. It shows potential. He turned to face his bridge crew. "Begin detailed scanning of their military capabilities. The Coalition will want to know if they pose any possible threat." Little did Admiral Ta Sung know that his nagging doubts about those energy readings were more than just paranoia. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in bunkers shielded from even the most advanced alien scanning technology, humanity's true capabilities lay waiting. The primitive technology visible on the surface was merely a carefully crafted facade, maintained for centuries in preparation for this very moment. But for now, the Coalition vessel continued its observation, its crew confident in their assessment of Earth as just another developing world, soon to be guided into the galactic community under their benevolent supervision. As Admiral Ta Sung finally turned away from the hologram to begin his report, he pushed aside his lingering concerns. After all, How could such a primitive species possibly hide anything from the advanced technology of the Galactic Coalition? The Earth continued its peaceful rotation below them, keeping its secrets for just a little while longer. The Coalition's diplomatic fleet hung in space like a constellation of artificial stars, their sleek vessels arranged in a perfect formation near Earth's moon. The flagship, a massive vessel that gleamed like polished silver, dwarfed its escorts. On its bridge, Ambassador Hangill paced back and forth, his usually calm demeanor showing signs of strain. 3 days, he muttered, stopping to stare at the blue planet below. 3 days of broadcasts, and not a single response. He turned to his aide, Yunho, who stood quietly monitoring the communication feeds. This has never happened before. Every species, no matter how primitive, has at least acknowledged our presence. Yunho adjusted the holographic display, showing the continuous loop of their peaceful greeting message being broadcast in every known human language. The signals are definitely reaching them. Sir, we've confirmed reception on all their major communication frequencies. The ambassador rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. Their message was simple enough. The Galactic Coalition welcomed Earth into the greater community of spacefaring civilizations. They offered knowledge, technology, and guidance. All Earth had to do was accept their terms of integration. Perhaps their communication systems are too primitive to formulate a proper response, Hangill suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. Or their leaders are still debating how to respond. Meanwhile, 2 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, Military Commander Du-hyun sat in a state-of-the-art command center that would have shocked the Coalition observers. Massive screens showed real-time data from sensors that the aliens didn't even know existed, tracking every movement of their ships with precision that would have been impossible with Earth's supposed level of technology. "They're getting nervous," Du-hyun remarked, a slight smile playing on his face as he watched the alien vessels adjust their formation again. 3 days of silence is driving them crazy. His staff, dressed in simple black uniforms without insignia, worked quietly at their stations, monitoring every aspect of Operation Skyfall. Captain Minji, his second-in-command, approached with a tablet showing the latest analysis. "Their scanning attempts are becoming more aggressive," she reported. "They're starting to push the limits of what should be diplomatic behavior." Du-hyun's smile widened. "Perfect. Let them keep pushing. Every scan they make only confirms what we want them to see." He stood up and walked to the main viewing screen, which showed a cross-section of Earth's defense systems, systems that remained completely invisible to Coalition technology. For centuries, humanity had prepared for this moment. While showing the face of a developing civilization to the stars, they had built a military and technological infrastructure that would have stunned the Coalition. The primitive satellites and space stations above were just props in an elaborate play. "Sir," one of the technicians called out, "they're preparing another broadcast. This one seems more insistent." The room fell silent as Ambassador Hangill's message played through their speakers. His tone was still diplomatic, but there was an edge to it now. "People of Earth, we continue to extend our hand in friendship. Your silence is concerning. We only wish to help guide your species into a new era of prosperity and advancement." Do-hyun chuckled softly. "They really can't stand being ignored, can they?" He turned to his staff. "Maintain radio silence. Let them stew a bit longer." In space, Ambassador Hangill was indeed stewing. He turned to Yunho with frustration evident in his voice. "Prepare a message to the Coalition Council. Recommend we move to Phase 2 of the integration protocol." "Sir," Yunho hesitated. "Phase 2 is usually reserved for potentially hostile species. Earth has shown no signs of aggression." "No signs of anything," Hangill corrected. "And that in itself is troubling. Better to show them a small demonstration of our power now than risk complications later." Back in the underground command center, Du-hyun received the news of the Coalition's decision with calm satisfaction. "Right on schedule," he murmured. He pressed a button on his command console, opening a secure channel to facilities around the globe. All stations, this is Commander Do-hyun. Operation Skyfall remains active. Prepare for Phase 3. As the acknowledgements came in, he looked up at the screen showing the Coalition fleet. Soon, they would learn that humanity's silence wasn't born of primitive technology or indecision. It was the calm before a storm that had been brewing for generations. Let them think what they want, he told his staff, his voice carrying across the command center. Soon enough, they'll understand exactly who they're dealing with. Above, the Coalition fleet continued its wait, unaware that Earth's silence was not a sign of weakness, but of strength waiting to be revealed. The orbital command center floated silently in Earth's thermosphere, completely invisible to both human and alien eyes. Through its quantum-shielded windows, General Sunmai watched Earth's curvature stretch out below, a beautiful blue arc against the blackness of space. But her attention was fixed on the holographic displays showing the Coalition fleet's movements. The aliens had spread their ships in an expanding search pattern, their sophisticated sensors probing deeper into Earth's atmosphere. They were looking for answers, but finding only more questions. General Sunmai allowed herself a small smile as another scan passed harmlessly through their defenses. General, the Coalition's flagship is adjusting its position, Captain Ki-tae reported from his station. His fingers danced across the holographic controls as he tracked the alien vessel's movement. They're focusing their scans on the polar regions now. Energy output from their sensors has increased by 30%. Show me, Sunmai ordered, walking to the central command platform. The air around her shimmered as dozens of holographic screens materialized, each showing different aspects of the Coalition's scanning efforts. Earth's true defense network was a masterpiece of technological deception. Thousands of cloaked satellites, defense platforms, and monitoring stations orbited the planet, all hidden behind technology that made them seem like nothing more than empty space. Even the command center itself, nearly a kilometer long, was invisible to the most advanced alien sensors. They've detected some anomalies in the upper atmosphere, Ki-tae continued, highlighting several areas where the Coalition's scans had picked up trace evidence of their cloaking technology. Nothing concrete, but they're becoming more thorough in their search patterns. Sun Li nodded, studying the data. Let them look. They won't find anything until we want them to. She moved to another display, watching as the Coalition ships adjusted their formation again. How are our countermeasures holding up? A young lieutenant spoke up from her station. All systems performing perfectly, General. The quantum diffusion field is masking our energy signatures, and the dimensional shields are redirecting their scans exactly as planned. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. The general allowed herself a moment of pride. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, developing technologies in secret while maintaining the facade of a primitive civilization. The Coalition thought they were dealing with a species that had barely reached its moon. They had no idea they were actually facing a civilization that had mastered dimensional engineering and quantum mechanics decades ago. New development, Ki-tae announced suddenly. They're launching probe satellites. Looks like they're planning to establish a permanent monitoring network around Earth. Sun Mai watched as small objects detached from the Coalition ships, spreading out in a carefully planned pattern. Interesting. They're getting impatient. She turned to her communications officer. Status of Operation Mirror. Ready on your command, General. Our dummy satellites are in position and waiting to be discovered. This was all part of the plan. Let the aliens find exactly what they expected to find. Primitive surveillance systems, basic defense satellites, rudimentary communication networks. Each discovery would only reinforce their belief in Earth's technological inferiority. Their scans are getting more aggressive, Ki-tae reported, watching energy signatures pulse across his screens. They're pushing their equipment to maximum power now. The anomalies they detected must have them worried. Good, Sunmai replied. The more they look, the more convinced they'll become that we're harmless. She walked to the main viewport, watching as one of the Coalition's massive ships passed by, completely unaware of how close it was to Earth's true military might. Below them, in the secret bunkers and hidden facilities across the planet, humanity's real technological achievements waited. Quantum weapons that could tear space itself apart. Dimensional shields that could withstand the force of a supernova. Ships that made the Coalition's finest vessels look like ancient sailing boats. Message from Command. The communications officer announced. Commander Do-hyun reports all ground facilities are secure and ready. They haven't detected any of our underground installations. Sun Mi nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. Perfect. Continue monitoring their movements. Let me know if they try anything beyond standard scanning procedures. As the hours passed, the Coalition's frustration became more apparent in their increasingly aggressive search patterns. But Earth's defenses held firm, revealing nothing but what humanity wanted them to see. In her command center, General Sun Mi watched and waited, knowing that soon enough, the aliens would learn the true meaning of hidden strength. The time would come to reveal Earth's power. But for now, let them search. Let them scan. Let them grow increasingly frustrated with each passing hour. The greatest deception was making your opponent believe they had all the answers when they hadn't even asked the right questions. Ambassador Han Gil stood rigid on his flagship's bridge, his patience finally exhausted after days of Earth's inexplicable silence. His face, usually composed, now showed clear signs of anger as he watched his fleet move into position above Earth's major cities. Deploy in attack formation, he commanded, his voice sharp with frustration. Let's show these primitives exactly what they're dealing with. The Coalition ships moved with precision, their massive hulls casting shadows over cities like New York, London, Tokyo, and Beijing. Sir, Yun-ho spoke up from his station. Are you certain this display of force is wise? The Council's protocols suggest. The protocols, Han Gil cut him off, didn't account for a species this stubbornly silent. Sometimes, a demonstration of power is necessary to establish proper diplomatic relations. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Do-hyun watched the aliens' movement with a predatory smile. The moment they had waited for had finally arrived. He pressed his palm against a biometric scanner, opening a secure channel to all Earth's hidden military installations. All commands, this is Do-hyun. Operation Skyfall is now active. I repeat, Skyfall is active. Execute on my mark. He paused, watching as confirmation signals lit up his display. Mark. Above New York City, the first dimensional rift appeared. The sky itself seemed to split open, a massive tear in reality that made the Coalition ship's sensors scream in alarm. Similar rifts appeared simultaneously above every major city worldwide, each one large enough to swallow the alien vessel's whole. Lieutenant Jae-yun, still aboard the observation vessel, stared in horror at her instruments. Impossible, she exclaimed, frantically checking and rechecking her readings. They're using advanced dimensional folding technology. These readings are off the scale. From these tiers in space emerged Earth's true fleet. The ships were massive, their black hulls seeming to absorb light itself. They dwarfed the Coalition vessels, making them look like toys in comparison. Each Earth ship bore marking in multiple languages, human unity displayed in steel and power. All Coalition vessels. A calm voice broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Hyorin of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your show of force has been noted. Perhaps now we can discuss terms as equals. On his flagship, Ambassador Han Gil stood frozen, watching as more and more Earth ships emerged from the dimensional rifts. Their technology was clearly centuries ahead of anything the Coalition possessed. The quantum signatures from their engines alone indicated power levels that should have been impossible for a primitive civilization to achieve. Sir, Yun-ho whispered, we're being surrounded. Earth vessels have emerged behind us as well. We're completely boxed in. In the underground command center, Du Hyun allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before opening a channel to General Sunmi's orbital platform, which had finally dropped its cloaking field. General, status report. All systems performing perfectly, Sunmi replied, her command center now visible in high orbit. The Coalition fleet is contained. Their weapon systems are locked by our quantum fields. They couldn't fire even if they wanted to. Lieutenant Jae-yun's voice cracked as she reported to her superiors. These ships, they're unlike anything we've ever encountered. The power readings suggest technology at least 3 generations beyond our own. The dimensional folding alone would require. She trailed off as new data flooded her screens. The Earth ships weren't just appearing from the rifts. They were maintaining them, showing complete mastery over dimensional engineering that the Coalition had barely begun to understand. Ambassador Han-gil finally found his voice. Open a channel to their command, he ordered, his earlier arrogance replaced by diplomatic caution. To Admiral Hyorin of Earth. Channel open, Yun-ho confirmed. This is Ambassador Han-gil. It seems we have significantly underestimated your civilization. Perhaps we should indeed discuss terms as equals. Admiral Hyorin's response came with a hint of amusement. Perhaps you should have tried that approach from the beginning, Ambassador. Your show of force has only demonstrated your own limitations. Shall we begin real negotiations now? As the massive Earth ships held position around the Coalition fleet, their very presence a statement of power, Lieutenant Jae-yun couldn't help but marvel at the deception they had maintained. Every scan, every observation, every assumption about Earth had been wrong. They hadn't been dealing with a primitive civilization. They had been dealing with a sleeping giant that had finally chosen to wake up. The sky remained torn open, a reminder to all that humanity's true face had finally been revealed to the galaxy. And it was a face that commanded not just attention, but respect. The Thunder's Edge hung in space like a dark mountain, its massive hull making the Coalition ships look like children's toys in comparison. From the command bridge, Admiral Song-ho watched the alien vessels scramble to regroup, their formation broken by the sudden appearance of Earth's true fleet. Your reaction is understandable, Song-ho transmitted to the Coalition fleet, his voice calm but carrying an edge of authority. It's not every day you discover that a primitive civilization has been concealing technology centuries ahead of your own. The bridge of Thunder's Edge hummed with quiet efficiency. Unlike the ornate designs of Coalition ships, Earth vessels favored functionality over appearance. Dark metal surfaces absorbed light rather than reflecting it, and holographic displays floated in 3-dimensional space without visible projectors. Captain Mayray approached the Admiral's position, her footsteps silent on the deck. Sir, the Coalition ships are attempting to analyze our technology. Should we allow it? Song-ho nodded. Let them look. It's time they understood exactly what they're dealing with. He turned to his weapons officer. Demonstrate the dimensional shields. Without warning, one of the Coalition ships fired a plasma burst. Whether from panic or aggression wasn't clear. The energy bolt approached Thunder's Edge at near light speed, but instead of impacting, it simply disappeared. The space around the Earth ship rippled like water, and the attack vanished into another dimension. Impossible. The Coalition's transmission came through clearly, panic evident in the voice. That level of dimensional manipulation shouldn't exist. Mayray's tactical display showed everything the Coalition was trying to understand. Earth's ships didn't just use shields. They manipulated the fabric of space-time itself. Each vessel was surrounded by a field that could redirect attacks into pocket dimensions or simply erase them from existence. Admiral, Mayray reported, they're scanning our quantum weapon arrays. Should we power them up for demonstration? Song-ho considered for a moment. A small demonstration might be educational. Target that abandoned satellite near their fleet. Minimal power. A barely visible beam emerged from one of Thunder's Edge's smaller weapons. When it touched the satellite, the target didn't explode or melt. It simply ceased to exist, along with a perfect sphere of space around it. The void left behind slowly filled itself as space-time recovered. The coalition ships immediately backed away, their engines flaring in barely controlled panic. Earth's fleet had weapons that could erase matter from reality itself, technology that should have been impossible by their understanding of physics. As you can see, Song Ho transmitted, "We've moved somewhat beyond fossil fuels and chemical rockets." He allowed himself a small smile. Earth has been preparing for this moment for centuries. We knew first contact was inevitable, so we made sure we would be ready. Mayre's screens showed the Coalition's desperate attempts to understand what they were seeing. Their sensors were picking up technology that, by their standards, shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years. Quantum singularity drives, dimensional folding technology, reality warping weapons. "Sir," she reported, "they're attempting to contact their home government. Their quantum communications seem primitive compared to ours." "Let them call home," Song Ho replied. "The Coalition needs to understand that the galaxy's balance of power has just changed dramatically." He stood and walked to the main viewport, watching as more Earth ships emerged from dimensional rifts around the planet. Each one demonstrated different aspects of humanity's hidden capabilities. Some ships phased in and out of reality, others manipulated gravity itself, and still others showed mastery over energy that made fusion power look like a child's toy. "Captain," he called to Mayre, "prepare a full tactical analysis for the Coalition. Show them exactly what we've been hiding all these years. It's time they understood that humanity isn't just joining the galactic community. We're redefining it." As Mayre compiled the report, the Coalition ships maintained their distance, their crews undoubtedly struggling to process what they were witnessing. Centuries of assumptions about Earth's technological level had been shattered in minutes. A new transmission came from the Coalition flagship. Admiral Song Ho, Ambassador Han Gil's voice had lost all its previous condescension. "We request a full diplomatic meeting. Your technology. We have so many questions." "Of course you do," Song Ho responded. "And we'll be happy to discuss everything, as equals. That was all we wanted from the beginning." Sometimes, Ambassador, the best way to earn respect is to show that you never needed it in the first place. The Thunder's Edge maintained its position above Earth, a silent testament to humanity's true power. After centuries of waiting and preparing, humanity had finally revealed itself to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Coalition's Emergency Council chamber buzzed with tension as holographic figures of the highest-ranking officials flickered in their seats. Ambassador Han Gil stood in the center, feeling the weight of dozens of accusatory stares from across the galaxy. "This is unprecedented." Supreme Counselor Ta Wun's hologram thundered, his usually composed features twisted with anger. "How did we miss this? An entire civilization, hiding in dimensional pockets. Our entire assessment of Earth was wrong." Han Gil wiped sweat from his brow. "Counselor, their deception was perfect. They maintained a facade of primitive technology, while developing capabilities we didn't even know were possible." And now, another council member cut in. "They hold the upper hand in negotiations. Our attempted show of force has put us in an embarrassing position." Meanwhile, aboard the Thunder's Edge, Earth's diplomatic team prepared for their first official meeting with the Coalition. Diplomatic Officer HFY reviewed her notes one final time, her calm demeanor masking the satisfaction she felt at humanity's revelation. "The Coalition's representatives are ready," her aide reported. "They seem nervous." "As they should be," HFY replied, smoothing her formal diplomatic uniform. "Today, we reshape the galaxy's power structure." The meeting took place in a neutral space, a dimensional pocket created specifically for this purpose, demonstrating Earth's mastery over space-time itself. As HFY's team entered, she noted the Coalition representatives' poorly hidden awe at the impossible room they found themselves in. "Welcome," she began, her voice carrying authority that made the Coalition delegates sit straighter. "Let's discuss Earth's terms for galactic cooperation." She activated a holographic display, showing Earth's proposed changes to the galactic power structure. The coalition representatives shifted uncomfortably as they realized just how much influence Earth was demanding. These terms are extensive, one coalition delegate managed to say. HFY smiled. They reflect our actual technological and military capabilities. Capabilities that, until recently, you chose to ignore or dismiss. Back in the Emergency Council chamber, Han Gil struggled to explain Earth's demands to his superiors. They want equal representation on the Galactic Council, he reported, and access to all coalition trade routes. They're also demanding recognition as a first-tier civilization. Preposterous, someone shouted. They've only just revealed themselves. With technology that surpasses our own, Ta-1 reminded them grimly. Their ships could have wiped out our entire fleet without effort. Instead, they chose to negotiate. In the dimensional meeting room, HFY continued presenting Earth's terms. Furthermore, we expect full access to coalition scientific databases. In exchange, we're willing to share some of our less advanced technologies. Some, a coalition representative asked weakly. We've spent centuries developing our technology in secret, HFY explained. We won't simply hand over everything at once. Trust must be earned. The negotiations continued for hours, with Earth's delegation maintaining firm control. Every attempt by the coalition to assert their traditional authority was met with subtle reminders of humanity's demonstrated power. Consider this, HFY said at one point, gesturing to the dimensional pocket around them. This meeting room exists in a space between spaces, created by technology you didn't think possible. Imagine what else we might be capable of. In the council chamber, the reality of their situation finally began to sink in. The coalition, long used to being the dominant force in the galaxy, now faced a civilization that had outmaneuvered them completely. We have no choice, Ta-1 finally admitted. We must accept their terms or risk losing face entirely. At least they're willing to negotiate rather than simply demanding submission. Han Gil nodded solemnly. Earth has shown remarkable restraint. They could have revealed themselves with violence. Instead, they chose diplomacy, after we forced their hand. As the day drew to a close, HFY prepared to deliver Earth's final terms. The coalition representatives looked exhausted, their earlier arrogance replaced by begrudging respect. Remember, she told them, Earth doesn't seek dominance. We want partnership, true partnership, not the false equality you initially offered us. The galaxy is changing, and the coalition must change with it. The power dynamics of the galaxy had shifted irreversibly. Earth had emerged not as another primitive world to be guided and controlled, but as a powerhouse that had been hiding in plain sight. The coalition's attempted power play had indeed backfired spectacularly, forcing them to accept a new reality where they were no longer the unchallenged masters of known space. The grand reception hall aboard the Thunder's Edge sparkled with diplomatic activity, 3 months after Earth's dramatic revelation. Representatives from across the galaxy mingled with human officials, their earlier fear and suspicion gradually giving way to genuine curiosity and respect. Admiral Ta Sung, who had once dismissed Earth as primitive, now served as the primary liaison between Earth and the coalition. He stood near one of the massive viewports, watching Earth rotate peacefully below while sipping from a glass of human wine, a beverage he had grown quite fond of. Quite different from your first view of our planet, isn't it? General Sunmai appeared beside him, her formal military uniform adorned with symbols of both Earth and coalition authority. Tai Sung couldn't help but laugh. The irony isn't lost on me, General. I spent decades exploring space, thinking I could recognize a primitive civilization at first glance. Earth proved me wonderfully wrong. The reception hall itself was a testament to Earth's true capabilities. The entire room existed partially in normal space and partially in a dimensional pocket, allowing views of both Earth and distant galaxies simultaneously. Coalition scientists were still trying to understand how it worked. We spent centuries thinking we were preparing for invasion, Sun Mai remarked. watching a group of alien diplomats examine a display of Earth's public technological achievements. Instead, we ended up teaching the galaxy a valuable lesson about appearances. Commander Du Hyun joined them, having just finished a briefing with coalition military officials. "The latest reports are promising," he announced. "Trade routes are established, cultural exchanges are underway, and our joint military exercises have shown impressive results." Around them, the evidence of humanity's successful integration into galactic society was clear. Coalition ships now regularly docked at Earth's orbital stations. Human technology was revolutionizing everything from space travel to medicine. Earth's dimensional folding techniques had already cut travel times across the galaxy by half. "Did you ever imagine it would work out this well?" Ta Sung asked, genuinely curious. "Your deception was perfect, but the reveal could have gone very differently." Sun Mi smiled. "We planned for every possibility, but we hoped the coalition would choose diplomacy over conflict. As Commander Do Hyun always says, sometimes the best defense is letting others underestimate you until the perfect moment." Across the room, Diplomatic Officer Acha was explaining Earth's educational exchange program to a group of interested coalition representatives. The program would allow students from across the galaxy to study at Earth's hidden universities, learning about technologies that had been developed in secret for centuries. "The younger generations are particularly excited," Du Hyun observed. "They're less concerned with old power structures and more interested in what we can achieve together." A holographic display in the center of the hall showed the newly reorganized Galactic Council chamber, where Earth now held a permanent seat. The Coalition's initial resistance to sharing power had faded in the face of humanity's demonstrated capabilities and diplomatic skill. "We're already seeing benefits we didn't expect," Sun Mi added. "Some of our theoretical research is finding practical applications when combined with coalition experience. Together, we're advancing faster than either civilization could alone." Tai Sung nodded thoughtfully. "That's perhaps the greatest irony. In preparing to defend against invasion, Earth became exactly the kind of civilization the coalition always claimed to be: advanced, peaceful, and ready to share knowledge for the greater good." The evening continued, a celebration of the new galactic order that had emerged from Earth's revelation. Coalition ships and Earth vessels now patrolled space together. Scientific teams collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Cultural exchange had brought new art, music, and ideas to both civilizations. As the reception drew to a close, Commander Du Hyun raised his glass in a toast. "To the future," he said simply, and the gathered diplomats and officials, human and alien alike, raised their glasses in response. Admiral Ta Sung watched the scene with satisfaction. The galaxy had changed forever, but it had changed for the better. Earth had proven that true strength lay not in domination, but in the wisdom to know when and how to use power. As the last guests departed through dimensional portals that would take them instantly to their home worlds, Sun Mi turned to her former adversary turned friend. "You know, Admiral, sometimes the best surprises are the ones that end up bringing people together." Tai Sung couldn't agree more. The coalition had learned to respect Earth's power, and humanity had stepped into a larger universe, not as subjects, but as equals. The future held endless possibilities, and for the first time, they would explore them together.